everyone, I'm Ashley from Group 15, and I just wanted to take this time to provide you with some extra resources that go with our lecture on Thursday. So our topic that we were assigned was enzymatic function and regulation, which I'm pretty sure we've all studied relentlessly for BCMB. I don't want to bore you too much with all of the specifics since we did just learn all about it, but if you do need some refreshing, I suggest that you go listen to Dr. Baker's lecture on UJA, and that can help you out a little bit. So our group wanted to look at interesting ways that enzymes can be utilized as a tool. In our presentation, we're going to discuss drug metabolism. Specifically, we'll explain how enzyme variants can have an effect on an individual's drug metabolic rate, as well as an individual's reaction to the drug. For instance, some people who take certain types of pain medication have really negative reactions to it, or it might not work well for them. But in this video, we wanted to kind of step outside of the human body and take a look at how enzymes can be used industrially. So for those of you who don't know, many restaurants, including fast food chains like Burger King, are beginning to use a plant-based burger called the Impossible Burger. And it's drawn a lot of media attention because the company Impossible Foods conducted a lot of research and utilized many scientific procedures to create a burger that is pretty close to identical to a beef burger. Some of those techniques include mass spectrometry, which they did in order to get the chemical structure of the flavor compounds, as well as protein isolation and identification, which they did in order to find homologs in plant species to ensure the correct texture of a burger. But the process that we're going to focus on in this video is the addition of heme to the burger. So what is heme? Heme is a complex molecule that you can see on your top right of the screen, and it's found in the myoglobin of the muscle, which is what we eat as meat. At its center is iron, which is what gives raw beef its red coloring as well as its slightly metallic taste. And in order to recreate that specific characteristic of beef, Impossible Foods needed to find a plant-based homolog for heme. And that homolog ended up being found in leg hemoglobin, which is sourced from soy roots. So in order to keep the creation of this burger as efficient and eco-friendly as possible, Impossible Foods decided against growing soy plants in a field and then isolating the protein. So instead, they used genetic engineering to form a recombinant yeast species that grow leg hemoglobin. And if you guys remember, what does recombination use? It uses restriction enzymes. So it's an industrial application of our topic. If you're fuzzy on the mechanics of recombination, I've thrown some pictures up on the side for you that are pretty simple and give an overall picture of how recombination works. But if you, again, need some freshening up, go ahead and look back at the lecture or your notes from BCMB. It's actually kind of a good way to go ahead and start studying for the final as well, as much as no one wants to hear that. But anyway, in order to cut the genes out of like hemoglobin and into Pica pastoris, which is the yeast species they used, researchers had to use a restriction enzyme to first cut out the portion of the genome that codes for like hemoglobin synthesis. Restriction enzymes are chosen that match specific sequences on either side of the gene of interest. Then those restriction enzymes will cut through the DNA, and that segment of DNA is fused onto a plasmid vector. And that vector is then able to transform the gene of interest. So in this case, it would be the genes that code for like hemoglobin synthesis, and those get transformed onto the yeast species. And then after culturing, those yeast species will produce a lot of like hemoglobin. Then the heme is much more easily isolated out following the steps that you can see on your screen. The important part of this video is not for you all to know these genetic processes and all of the technicalities in the production of the Impossible Burger. What we want to get across to you in this video and in our mini lecture on Thursday is that while enzymes are powerful tools in our bodies, they can also be utilized for industrial purposes, whether that's production of a product like the Impossible Burger or even just as tools in a research lab. It's important to understand the mechanics of enzymes because their variability and widespread use will continue to be important in our bodies and in our society. Thanks.